All right. You guys could share my see my screen, right? Sorry, I couldn't hear. Yes, yes, perfect, perfect. All right, cool. I guess I won't be able to hear you guys too much, right? The microphone, I guess, is all the way at the front. Okay. All right. I guess before I jump in, I wanted to get like a quick show of hands of how many people are familiar with ChatGPT and how many people have been using it. Can we get like a quick show of hands? Heard of it? Oh, perfect, perfect. Is anyone using it now? Nope. Perfect. I mean, it's. I think that's a. Well, two sides of it, but no, I think that's very good because you guys are gonna get a lot out of the session, right? I've also done a more advanced version of this session where people already know it and are looking for like super advanced things to do. So I just wanted to make sure I have I have the right slides for the audience. But no, that's very good. That's literally what you guys get out of this session, and I think it's going to be super valuable for you guys. So I'm just going to jump into it then really quick. That's me on the right side. So today we're going to talk about history of ChatGPT, and then I'm going to talk about some applications. So we're going to go through applications for SEO, social media, pay-per-click, and then I'll give you some good tips and tricks. And it's you'll see as we go through this, it's a very new platform and new tool. So it's not a lot of like the tips and tricks aren't very well documented. There really aren't too many true experts in it. So it's kind of a learn as you go situation right now. But I have some really good tips for you guys to get the most out of it. A little bit about me before we jump in. So I've personally been very involved in the auto space for the last couple of years. I just wrote a book on automotive search marketing. You could see here. For those who are interested, I could send a PDF copy after the session, and they're of course in Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, everywhere, everything like that. It does not, funny enough, it does not cover ChatGPT. I wrote the book in November, it just got published, but actually the writing part happened in November, which crazy enough, ChatGPT did not exist. At the end of my book, I think under like useful tools, I mention it as something that's going to be on the horizon, but it literally did not exist then. It was just something that was on the verge of coming out, and no one knew how big it would become. So in any case, feel free to check out my book. It's a lot of search marketing, SEO, pay-per-click stuff. My company, SmartSites, which I co-founded, we're a full service digital agency. We're in every single industry. So it's, even though I focus on auto, my company is in every industry. 400 full-time employees, in business for a while, and we're always in growth mode. We're always one of the fastest growing, top-rated agencies. So in 18 months, we'll be at 800 employees. 18 months from then, 1,600. So we're in super growth mode. The only reason I mention any of this is that we have experience doing SEO, pay-per-click, all of this stuff that I'm going to be talking about for thousands of clients. And the idea today is to kind of distill all of that stuff that we're doing down to useful information for you guys. And on ChatGPT specifically, we don't sell a service around it. So my experience with it has really been just using it myself and using it for our company and trying to get the most out of the tool to create efficiencies, which I think is going to be the big takeaway here today, and hopefully that's what you get out of the session as well. All right, so before we go through ChatGPT stuff, let's go through a quick history of it, and I think this is going to be super relevant for you guys, especially since a lot of you are not using it. So let me jump in. So this is actually Google's search interest tool. So it shows how many people are searching for a specific keyword or topic, right? So the big takeaway here is that, as you could see, before November, it didn't exist. and the amount of growth that has happened in this space. And aside from ChatGPT, there's of course other tools. The space in general, I would call generative AI is the space, has been just astounding. Just as a quick example of how it compares to some of the other apps and services that you guys might be aware of in terms of growth. So this is how long it took these other companies to reach 100 million users. So I don't know if you guys remember at the time, but when Instagram came out and started growing really, really quick, they were able to hit 100 million users in 30 months. And at that time, that made them the fastest growing company, service, whatever you want to qualify it. And of course, that's why Facebook purchased them, because of that crazy, crazy hyper growth. Before that, previous services, as you could see here, took so much longer. Even when you compare it to Spotify, Telegram, Uber, these hyper growth companies, Instagram was in its own league. TikTok, of course, came out a couple years ago and was able to reach 100 million users in 9 months, which again set tons of records. That one Instagram maybe too, but I would put a little bit of asterisk on it, because for TikTok, if you think about it, a lot of their growth came from a very young demographic. Older people are using it now too, but for a while it was really like under 18, I don't know, under 13, right? And it was just an app that you load up and you scroll through videos, right? ChatGPT is such a different tool and so much more advanced tool, and it's really an efficiency tool used by business people, right? So that makes the feat just so much more incredible that they were able to reach 100 million users within 2 months. And again, in November when I wrote my book, it did not exist, and then by January they were already at 100 million active users. So just to put all of this in perspective of how quickly all of this is growing and evolving. And obviously it's not surprising that a lot of you guys have not really don't know very well or don't use it, because literally 6 months ago it did not exist at all. Cool. Any questions here before we keep going? No questions? Okay. Let me keep going. So, although ChatGPT itself hasn't been out for a very long time, the technology behind it has really been in development for a long time. So the company that produced ChatGPT, OpenAI, was actually founded all the way back in late 2015. If you've heard on the news, Elon Musk was an early investor, and he was on the board, although he's not involved anymore. So all of this has been in the makings for a very long time. ChatGPT is really the generative AI interface that you could really talk to, right? And again, so to take a step back, for those that are not super familiar with it, what ChatGPT is and what it does, it's a generative AI platform that you could, within your browser, within your app, whichever way you want to use it, interact with to get information. And later in the slides, I'll be going through the actual examples. But just for those that have never used it or never heard of it, it's like a chat interface which uses a deep language model to be able to answer questions based on huge amounts of information. So it's almost like a Google search, right? When you have a question for Google, you go in, type a Google search, and you get responses. Except on Google, the responses are various websites, where here they have their own data set of information that it responds from. So in its current iteration, it came out end of last year as ChatGPT, where you can actually interact with it. ChatGPT 4 came out actually a couple months ago, so that's even more recent. And I'll show you guys a quick comparison between the latest ChatGPT, well, ChatGPT Plus, and the original one. But just to point out that although the latest iteration of being able to communicate and talk to and everything with ChatGPT is new, but the technology behind it has been developed for a very, very long time. All right. So a lot going on here. I tried to fit a lot of information on a slide, but the what I would call the default ChatGPT. So if you go and you sign up for it, and it's free, by the way. You sign up for it and start using it. It's what's referred to as ChatGPT 3.5, which was the latest default model. ChatGPT 4 came out a couple months ago. It's now, there's various ways to get it, but the direct way is by paying $20 a month to OpenAI, and you get what's called ChatGPT Plus, which uses the new 4 model. The best way to describe the differences between the models is on the right side. So if we look on the right side here for a little bit, so on the bottom are different standardized testing. So you have, I don't know, AP English, you have LSAT, I think you have the bar exam somewhere here too. SAT Math is here on the right. Where's the bar exam? Bar exam somewhere here also. AP Biology, SAT Math, Statistics. Here we go, uniform bar exam. So in blue is what you're seeing is the default GPT 3.5, right? So the default GPT 3.5 could score very well on some of these AP History and ACT Math, some of those standardized information, more information-based tests. On the bar exam, it was doing okay, but it was not passing, right? It was not, we're looking at the blue charts. In green is the new ChatGPT 4 model. So the new ChatGPT 4 model actually gets, I think it was like 92% on the bar exam, and is a lot better at reasoning questions and being able to use a lot bigger data sets. So here on the right side is a little bit more of a comparison, but in terms of architecture, it has access to 1.5 billion parameters versus 117 million for the standard model. At the end of the day, I think this will mean very, very little for the way most people use ChatGPT. I think eventually everything will move to the ChatGPT 4 model, but the big takeaway here is that ChatGPT 4 is a lot more powerful, but in most use cases, the default model is going to be more than good enough. And for just to illustrate that for you guys, all of the slides I put together in this deck is actually with the default 3.5 model. So in most cases, it's more than sufficient. All right, one more slide before we jump into the actual use cases. So this I found really interesting, and I have there was a couple of these and to pick from, but this is an actual job post, and there's a lot of them now for a pretty much ChatGPT operator, and the profession in making, right, is actually called prompt engineer. So the crazy part about all of this is that, first of all, not only has it been around a couple of months only, but in a couple of months, people realize such great potential in it that companies are now hiring prompt engineers. And literally a prompt engineer is someone who is proficient at asking ChatGPT for questions in a way they get the best responses. So this just seems great. And by the way, salaries, I have it highlighted here, but the salaries for this stuff is insane, right? It's paying $300,000 to be a ChatGPT operator. The other funny stuff, if you go and actually look at some of these job posts, a bunch of them I found hilarious because a bunch of them asked for like a year experience. Or I remember I read one, they're looking for 5 years of experience, right? ChatGPT's been out like 6 months now. So this is the reason I bring this up is I do think that all of this is very, very powerful, and I do think that people and companies that become proficient in using ChatGPT as a tool to become more efficient, both in their day-to-day and operationally, are going to be a lot more successful in various different ways. And I think the market is seeing that, and that's why these positions exist. I do think it's a little bit, I don't want to say fad, but I think $300,000 prompt engineer positions will probably not be around for 5-10 years, right? If you have like kids in grade school, I wouldn't necessarily start telling them you should become a prompt engineer, right? But at the time right now, it's super, super valuable for people who actually know how to utilize these tools. And hopefully at the end of this session, it's gonna be you guys, and you guys will be you'll be empowered enough to go out and start applying for prompt engineer jobs if you so want to. All right, I'm gonna take a quick breather here and leave some time for questions. If anyone has any questions with any of the stuff we've reviewed before we actually go through the the use cases. Any questions? Questions, concerns? Afraid that ChatGPT will take over everything? Not yet? Cool. All right, let's keep going. So I'm going to go through the actual use cases. And again, this is stuff that myself I go through and try to see where the efficiencies could be created in different ways. And this is all going to be obviously dealership focused. So first section we're going to go through is SEO. Can you get a quick show of hands of how many people know what SEO is? Cool. So we have some seem like one or two brave volunteers raise their hands. So for those who don't know, SEO is search engine optimization. So it's optimizing your website to come up better on Google and get more traffic from Google organic results. So this is the non-paid results. Does that make sense for everyone? Perfect. To take a deeper dive on Google, there's typically two different distinct sections for search results. And I do a whole keynote section just on what do I call it? Mastering SEO, going through all of this stuff. This will be very condensed because the takeaways here are really how to use ChatGPT for it. But SEO is super important. When someone searches for a dealership, these are the two different sections of SEO. The top is what's in the SEO community is called Google Local Pack, which is for you guys Google Maps. And on the bottom is Google Localized Organic Results. The big takeaway here is that they're completely different and the ranking signals that Google uses for both are different. So that's why we separate them out. On the next slide, we're going to quickly look at the ranking signals. So for those who are interested in SEO, and feel free to take a picture. I think you'll get the slides after, but if for anyone that interested in SEO, this is a good picture slide, and I'll have one more at the end summarizing it. These are the ranking signals that determine how well you rank on Google organic search results. So on the right side, Local Pack again is Google Maps. So what determines how well you rank on Google Maps? It's your Google My Business profile. Obviously, you want to make sure that's filled out. All the information's there. Everything it could be filled out is filled out. Number two ranking factors is reviews. So it's both the quantity of your reviews, quality of your reviews, and actually the content of your reviews. So a lot of people don't realize, but Google uses the content of your reviews for context and for as a ranking signal. So what I mean by that is if you're a coffee shop and you want to be known for Colombian coffee, if a lot of your reviews mention Colombian coffee, so when someone searches on Google for Colombian coffee, your coffee shop will more likely come up. So the content of your reviews influences how well you rank on Google. Obviously, you can't dictate what people leave as their reviews, but you should at the very least be aware that content of the reviews does impact what you rank for, and do your best to encourage people to not only leave reviews, but leave reviews with a lot of content and highlighting certain things. And then after that, it's on-page links, behavioral citations, personalization. On-page is technical SEO and the quantity and quality of your content, followed by links, and then everything gets a little bit smaller. Behavioral is how they interact with your website. Citations are the Yelps and such of the world. And personalization is the hardest to control, but it's Google personalizing results based on someone's location, what language they're searching, and things like that. On the left side is the organic results. So that's the non-maps. Everything comes in before maps. So here on page and links are by far the most important. Again, that's technical SEO, creating unique content, a lot of unique content, and links continue to be super important. Links are other websites linking to you. So if you guys, to take a step back, if you guys think about it, the way to grow your SEO traffic is really technical SEO to fix up things, right? Google My Business profile and reviews are of course important, but on a monthly basis, you want to be creating unique content. So unique content gives you the opportunity to show up in search results. To think about it, if you create a page on your website comparing a Honda Accord and a Toyota Camry, and someone searches Honda Accord versus Toyota Camry, that page has an opportunity to show up in search results. If you never created that page, you will never show up in search results for that search query, right? Your homepage is just not contextually relevant enough, and neither will most of your other content be. So the takeaway is you always want to be creating unique content. And again, that each piece of content is an opportunity to show up in search results. And then link building shows Google you're authoritative, right? So the more websites that link to you, and of course you want relevant and authoritative websites linking to you, but the more websites that link to you, the more authoritative Google sees you are, right? If you're a random website that has no one linking to them versus your website that has articles from CNN and Fox News and whatever linking to you, that's the night and day difference, right? That's how Google, amongst other ranking factors, but that's how Google determines your authority, and the more authoritative you are, the higher your content will rank. That's like a 45-minute of content we just covered. I'll take a quick pause. Any questions with SEO and ranking factors? All right, keep going. So this is how it looks over time. So over time, this is the non-maps results. So over time, links and on page. So content links continue to be more and more important. Interesting one here is social, right? That's probably one of the most common questions I get. Does social impact my SEO, right? Does creating my Facebook, Instagram, whatever impact the way I rank on Google? And the answer is no. It doesn't impact it in any way. The few times historically where it did slightly is when Google ran their own social media network. This is Google Maps. Also stuff that might seem obvious, but just interesting to look at over time. The Google My Business profile continues to be the most important factor of ranking on Google Maps. Again, make sure you have everything in there filled out, as much information as you can. And then things like citations, and other websites. So citations are like the Yelps of the world, right? Become less and less relevant. And I'm sure you guys have even seen it in your business line over the last, compare like 5-10 years. The Yelps of the world have become a lot less relevant and important versus your Google My Business profile. I'd imagine 10 years ago, if you were running your dealership and were focusing on your website, you most likely would have been focusing on Yelp reviews, right? Where today you're probably focusing on Google reviews. All right, so one more quick summary of what's important for SEO. So again, it's these things, and the reason I take such a deep dive here, quick but deep dive into SEO, is in the next couple of slides we'll talk about how to use ChatGPT to really focus on the most important aspects of SEO. All right. So for the remainder of the deck, it's actual ChatGPT examples I'm going to use. I put this deck together, I want to say 2-3 months ago. So ChatGPT is a always learning model. So the results you get today might not be the results I got 2 months ago, or probably won't be. But this is a good summary of what you could be doing and how it works. So the top line is me going to ChatGPT and asking question, and this is the response it gives. So use case number 1, site page ideas. So here I go, what kind of page should a car dealership website have? And based on the learning model of what pages are important and all the data set that goes into ChatGPT, it actually tells you which pages you should have. And by the way, it's all very interactive. You could say, give me 20 pages. You could say, give me 30 pages. Give me pages like this, but not like this. But off the bat, 10 pages a car dealership should have. If you don't have one of these, please jot it down and create one, right? And again, you could go back to ChatGPT and have a more in-depth discussion about which pages you should have. The 10 points out for me here is, of course, your home page, new car page, used car page, if you are selling new cars, specials, finance, service, parts, about, contact, and test drive. Might seem obvious, but when I presented this the first time 5 months ago, and I presented it for franchise dealers, half of the people in the room did not have a test drive page. So a lot of times people might not even know what they want to test drive, but they just want to come into a dealership and schedule time for test drive. So just having a form to fill out for someone to say they want to come in, select a time maybe, is super, super important. And some people think it skews more new cars, but I think it's just as relevant for used cars as well. Because a lot of times people don't have the specific car in mind, right? Or they want to do it on the spot, right? So they just want to schedule an appointment with you pretty much. All right, next. Content ideas. So you're looking to create content, you're following my advice, and again, I go through it with a lot more detail in here of what kind of content to create and what works and what I've seen work for the dealerships we work with. But you're taking my advice, you got to create content to generate more organic search traffic to your website. Literally generate a list of blog post ideas for a car dealership. And you could be, again, you could refine these prompts with ChatGPT a lot further than I do in this case. You could say blog post ideas for car dealership in I don't know, in Montana in the springtime, right? But it literally gives you ideas of what you could be writing blog posts about. So in the past being 6 months ago, a lot of this would have been someone at the dealership brainstorming, right? It might even be an intern, I don't know, or your marketing company. And this actually would take time, right? You want to look through your existing content, see what you should be writing about. Content strategy used to be a pretty time consuming task. Here, you literally put it in and you get the answer right away of things that you should be creating content about. All right, let's keep moving. So that was content ideas. So the big controversial topic is actual content itself. So again, when I wrote the book, ChatGPT was just beginning to be a thought. But when I think the couple blurbs I wrote about it is I strongly believed that Google would penalize you for it. So Google and a lot of other tools are smart enough to know when content is AI generated. And my thought was that Google would not want to encourage people to go out and create tons and tons of, I don't want to say duplicate content, but similar content, right? Generated by AI. Because not only can you use ChatGPT as a prompt, you could use it as an API interface, which is how we use it. So you could generate infinite amount of content very, very quickly. But Google came out in February and said that for the time, well, they didn't say for the time being, I think it's for the time being, but they came out and said that for now, they're going to continue to reward high, and this is their blog post. This page is straight from Google's internal blog post. They'll continue to reward high quality content regardless of how it's produced. So what they mean by that is for the time being, you can actually create entire pages of content with ChatGPT, and that Google will continue to treat it equally to manually create content, meaning that it should still be unique, it should still be useful, right? It shouldn't be spammy, it should provide value to the customer. Whoever's reading it should actually be interested in reading it. But with that aside, for the time being, you could actually use ChatGPT to create content for your website. Here's a quick example. So here I did write 250 words on the history of the Mercedes GLS, right? This is something that before would take at least a couple hours because someone would have to research it, right? Then put it together, a concise way. This is generated, I think this was generated in 8 seconds. What's interesting here is that it actually does a really, really good job. But at the same time, I found that experimenting with this over a couple of months now, a lot of times it needs some massaging, right? So a couple things. Number one, ChatGPT's base language model is actually almost 2 years old at this point. So its core data set, which is the most accurate, doesn't have data from the last 2 years. So if you're writing about new car features or things like that, although somehow it does a decent job at it most of the time, it doesn't always have the correct information. So that's number one. Number two, it doesn't always read super well, although it's gotten better and better at it. It's in this example, it's actually, I think it's perfect. It's literally chronological and everything. But sometimes it just needs some massaging. So what I would say is you could use it to create content. I'd consider experimental. I would definitely have an editor fix things up and QA, quality control it, right? At the end of the day, just be aware that Google might change their mind, and that's the big risk, right? You invest a lot into creating content with ChatGPT, and then Google comes out and says, guess what? None of this content will rank on Google, right? Or more so, I thought Google would start highlighting in results, right? It would say this content's AI generated. For the time being, this is okay though, and it could be forever, not just for the time being. So definitely experiment with this. A super powerful way to create content where before it would be a lot more difficult. The other takeaway is when you ask it to write things, and I'll show you the tips and tricks after, but you could actually ask it to write it in different styles, which is I think one of the more powerful ways to create unique content. Because if someone goes into ChatGPT and steals my example here, I presented this example probably to, I don't know, a couple thousand people now, right? Someone goes and steals my example and write me 250 words on a Mercedes GLS, and everyone goes, all these thousands of people go out and do it, everyone's going to have 1,000 very similar pages. So one thing I would suggest is asking it to do in different styles and different ways, so it's at least a little bit more unique. Here's a funny example. So I wrote here, write 250 words on the history of the Mercedes GLS in the style of Shakespeare. So literally, and it could do as a style of anyone, because it's literally a language model. So it's analyzed and has the information on people's different writing styles. So here we have, oh, fair ladies and gentlemen, listen to the tale of a carriage that has journeyed through time and prevail. You could read through the rest, but it does a pretty good job of literally using William Shakespeare's style of writing for any content that you could create. All right, let's keep going. So the other thing is link building. So the content stuff is obviously a more logical application because ChatGPT is a language model that is very content centric, but you could also use it for other ways. So we talked a little bit about link building, how getting links to your website improves how your website ranks in Google. You could literally, here I said, what are the most popular local automotive directories in New Jersey, right? So maybe some of these won't give you a link, or some of them might not be exactly what you're looking for, but this could give you some ideas of where to look for websites that link to you. And again, websites linking to you makes you look more authoritative in Google's eyes, so link building continues to be super important. All right, moving on. So reputation management, I think, is one of the best use cases. So reputation management is when people leave you reviews. So it's Google My Business, wherever it is. It's a best practice to respond to all your reviews, both positive and negative. There's research studies that show that even a negative review with a correct response could create a positive sentiment for a consumer who reads it. So someone leaves your review, said they had a terrible experience with your dealership. Your response, the way you respond to it, could actually make a consumer more likely to go to your dealership even though there's a negative review. So you want to make sure you're responding to all reviews, positive and negative, and ChatGPT is probably one of the best tools to use for that. So I did a very basic example. So I write a response to a user who loved this review on our car dealership Google listing. And I copy pasted the review. The review was, my third time getting a car from Prestige Lexus of Ramsey. All 3 times he gave the respect and trust that is truly hard to find at a car dealership, especially these days. No pressure to buy. So that was the review. Without me even prompting ChatGPT with any other further prompts, and I'll read the response, the response it wrote up, but automatically ChatGPT knows to highlight certain aspects of the review and make it so that whoever is reading it is actually more inclined to come to your dealership, literally without me needing to do any other prompts. So I'll read the review response that it generated. Thank you so much for your kind words and for choosing Prestige Lexus of Ramsey for your car buying needs. We're so glad to hear that our team provided you with the respect and trust that you deserve during all your visits. So it literally highlights the positive thing the person said, right? We strive to provide a no pressure and enjoyable car buying experience for all of our customers. Again, it's calling out that line at the end where the guy said there was no pressure to buy. We are thrilled that we are able to exceed your expectations and earn your repeat business. Thank you for your continued loyalty, and we look forward to helping you with all of your car buying needs in the future. How cool is that, right? I think if you task someone in your dealership to go and respond to reviews, I don't think they would do as good of a job, right? To be able to call out each positive of the review in a way that entices other consumers to do business with you, it's super, super powerful. Any questions at this point? All right, keep going. ChatGPT for social media. So as opposed to SEO, where there's some risk of Google eventually pointing it out or banning it, or whatever it is, social media, there's no such risk, right? There's no risk of duplicate content. There's no risk of the content being AI generated and penalized. So I think this will continue to be one of the best applications of ChatGPT. If you're doing social media, or you have someone doing it, whether in-house or agency or whatever, you should definitely be using it in some way. And again, this is not to replace people. This is not like, oh, I have a person in a dealership that does social media, I'm going to replace them with ChatGPT, right? I think throughout all of this that we review today, the idea is not to replace people, but the idea is to make people more efficient. And really, if you think about it, you could draw some parallels to the computer when it first came out as a replacement to a typewriter, right? There was a lot of, and obviously computer does other things, but let's think about it in the context to replace the typewriter. You could now type in Microsoft Word instead of a typewriter. There's a lot of people that just, first of all, people are scared they would replace everything, and it certainly replaced people who were not willing to change with the times and move on to new technology, but more so made people more efficient, right? By being able to use automatic grammar check, spell check, by being able to like erase easier, right? Imagine erasing on a typewriter. Imagine like when I type very quick, but I make spelling, grammar, whatever mistakes from time to time, right? Imagine how much slower it would take me to do anything if I had to go on the typewriter and like try to erase or white out or like start over. Imagine you wrote half the page. So it's, again, it's all of this is not to replace anyone, but it's to make people more efficient. And people who are able to use it effectively are going to get a lot more out of their time. So if you have a full-time social media person in-house, let's say, it's not that, oh, now I don't need them. It's now that social media person could actually produce twice more, do twice more, take on other responsibilities because some of the menial tasks are being taken over by ChatGPT or other tools. All right, for this example, I put write 100 words worth of Facebook copy for a car dealership in the New York City area, include a call to action. Again, ChatGPT is a language model. It's not just like a yes or no prompt. It's a lot more advanced than your Google Home or Alexa or whatever it is. So you are able to prompt it. And again, this is why prompt engineers are being paid $300,000. You're able to prompt it in a correct way to get the most out of it, right? I specifically say here to include a call to action. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a call to action, right? So I'm not going to read through all the text here, but you could see, are you in the market for a new car? Look no further than XYZ car dealership in New York City. And then at the end, it says, don't forget to book your test drive now to experience the drive. Call or visit us on our website to schedule a test drive today, right? You need that call to action, and then without it, all of this wouldn't be as powerful. Any questions with this? If not, I'll just keep going. So I'm not, so I don't keep asking for questions. Just feel free to interrupt at any point if you have questions, and we could go through those as well. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A, and I'll show you some other cool things. Twitter. So write 5 funny tweets about working at a car dealership, right? Content on Twitter is not going to be the same as content on Facebook. Not only does the content look different, but it's the hashtags are more important, right? Facebook doesn't have what's called discoverability. Well, it does, but it's not used that way. If you have a hashtag, you can't click it and see all that stuff related, or most people don't click it and see all the stuff written about it. So ChatGPT automatically knows to change the style of these posts. They know to stick to the Twitter character limit, right? And they know to include hashtags. So all really, really powerful stuff. And this is super, super powerful for content planning. You could sit down with ChatGPT and a single day plan out social media content for the next 90 days, right? And schedule it all out. All right, TikTok. Similar. So for TikTok, the post TikTok's more video focused, but you could certainly have ChatGPT help you with hashtags and things like that. So here I asked, what are the most popular hashtags for automotive on TikTok? What's interesting is ChatGPT prompts you and does say that as an AI language model, I do not have access to real-time data, right? So its main data set is actually a little old. And there's the new iteration coming out now is actually could crawl websites and get newer information, but at the end of the day, their most vetted core data will be manually refreshed over time. But it prompts you that it doesn't have the news data, right? But it does still an amazing job of pointing out the hashtags you should use. How else would you get this information, right? No matter how proficient you are at TikTok, you don't know the latest hashtags unless you look through the app, try to figure them out. You could go on Google and ask, right? If you think about it, who's responding? What response are you getting on Google? You're getting other websites that were created to show you the information, right? Like a lot of times, like other people's opinion of it, right? So at the end of the day, this data is going to be so much more powerful than other people's websites. So really, really powerful stuff. That was my last slide for social media. Any questions with TikTok as it relates to social media? I know I try to get through a lot of stuff. There's a lot of really cool stuff, and I talk very quick. So any questions? All right, keep going. So ChatGPT for PPC. So this is going to get a little bit more advanced. I think in a lot of cases, you guys wouldn't necessarily need to know how to do this or be able to do this, but it's worth a conversation with your PPC agency or whoever's doing your PPC. Before I jump in, so PPC is obviously Google Ads, but worth pointing out that Microsoft Ads is becoming a bigger and bigger deal. They've been actually doing really, really well for the last couple of years. They've innovated on a lot of fronts. If you guys are familiar with vehicle listing ads on Google, Microsoft actually invented that a couple of years before Google, right? In the last couple of years, the amount of innovation I've seen out of Microsoft has been just amazing. But their market share continued to be very little, and they often get ignored because their market share is, I don't know, let's say 10% on desktop. In the last couple of months, because of the ChatGPT integration, a lot more people are using Microsoft products. So Microsoft Bing search result has ChatGPT integrated now, although Google now will also, but this just gave them the advantage to really start gaining market share. And just this headline here, 100 million users are now using Microsoft Bing. There was a beta sign-up sheet to be enrolled to be able to use ChatGPT within Microsoft Bing results. I forget whether it was 10 million or something like that, but it was millions of people signed up for this Microsoft beta to be able to do this. I can't remember the last time millions of people, tens of millions of people, were excited about something Microsoft was doing, right? The last time was probably 1995, where if you guys remember that when Windows came out, Windows 95, and you had Steve Ballmer dancing on stage. If you guys don't remember that or haven't seen it, jot it down and look it up on Google, on YouTube later. There's literally Steve Ballmer coming on stage dancing. There's like balloons everywhere, confetti. There's like release of Microsoft Windows 95. I think it's literally the biggest hype since then. And if you are doing Google ads or any kind of paid advertising, please keep Microsoft ads top of mind as well. Performance there for our dealerships has been and continues to be better than on Google. All right, now we'll jump into actual applications. So the use cases for AI and PPC is actually very advanced, but I think it's a similar theme that we just went through where it's all about creating efficiencies, right? So the question I asked here, what Google Ads campaign should a car dealership run, right? So it's a good first start. Like, what can I be advertising on PPC Google Ads? And it actually describes each one for you and which kind of keywords you should be bidding for. Search ads, it says, display ads, video ads, remarketing, and local inventory ads. What's really, really powerful here is it's you could literally, let's say you have an agency but you don't talk to them much, instead of trying to track down your agency rep and talking about campaigns. You can actually have a very intelligent conversation with ChatGPT about what's possible and what you should be doing. And then when you actually talk to your agency, you could have a very, very intelligent conversation. You could literally say that now that I've been thinking about it, me and ChatGPT have been thinking about it, we should really be doing remarketing ads. Are we doing remarketing ads? If not, why not, right? As you can see here, you could use remarketing ads to show personalized ads to people who have abandoned a car purchase or visit specific pages, right? You could literally, anyone who's come back to your website 5 times in the last 30 days, you could consider them highly in market, right? And then show them remarketing ads. You could do some kind of offer, right? Time sensitive offer, July 4th, $100 off if you buy by this date. You know that they're in market. You know that they're coming to your site back and forth. Number 2, you could reinforce your reputation. So people have gone to your website. You could show them ads showing 5-star review, literally like a banner, 5 stars under it, and like a quote from someone leaving a review saying they had an amazing experience at your dealership, right? So you could literally nurture your current prospects very cheaply. For those that don't know how the PPC and all this works, it's all per click. That's why it's PPC, pay per click. You only pay if someone clicks that remarketing banner, right? So people come to your website, you're then showing them remarketing banners. All that exposure is free. Every time someone sees it, you're not paying for it. It's literally free exposure. Someone actually clicks it, and let's say lands on a page on your website where you have like a coupon to cut out and bring to a dealership, right? You wind up paying $1 for that person to click that. That's going to be super, super effective. So not to keep pitching my book, but I go in a lot more detail in the book about the campaigns you should run. And I actually wrote it myself since ChatGPT was not around to help me. But there's a lot of really cool information, both in my book and ChatGPT on what kind of campaigns you should be running. And again, if you have someone doing this, whether in-house or an agency, I think the takeaway here is you could really educate yourself on what's possible, and then have a very, very good conversation with the agency or person saying, are we doing this? If no, why not? It might be a good reason you're not, right? But at the very least, I found, at least in the automotive space, a lot of the agencies kind of go on autopilot and could use the prompt of, can use the encouragement to consider trying and testing new things. Next one. So again, so this is coming soon functionality, but I think in a couple of weeks, ChatGPT is going to be able to crawl websites. Here, they probably used, if I had to guess how this prompt was answered, they probably used a cached version of the website from before. But in any case, this also worked out very well. Create 5 performance marketing ad copy ideas based on the copy of prestigelexus.com. So the idea is the copy you use in your ad should match the website, right? There should be the continuity, the consistency. Usually you want consistency in coloring and messaging and ad copy. So as you're building your ads out, what easy way to really create that continuity and sprinkle in some copy straight from your website, at the same time make it into performance marketing ad copy, and have ChatGPT create it for you. And literally, ChatGPT even tells you how they came up with this, right? They say these ad copies, and they give you could read through them, but these ad copy ideas aim to highlight the unique feature and benefits of Prestige Lexus's vehicles, as well as their commitment to customer satisfaction and service by emphasizing the luxury, innovation, and value of their vehicles. These ad copy ideas can attract potential customers who are looking for a premium driving experience. And as you could imagine from the domain, this is a Lexus website. This is actually a Lithia store. I think it's one of their biggest dealerships. We've been working with them for a long time, and we've been using some of these ideas there as well. Scripting. So this is probably now we're getting way over everyone's head, but at the very least, so you know what's possible. ChatGPT, can you write me a code for Google Apps scripts that grabs the call reports from Google Ads for the last 90 days, given a set of Google Ad IDs? So what this is going to give me is going to give me all the phone calls generated from Google Ads and match it up to the ad that generated, right? And then you could have a pretty interesting analysis of which ads are driving the most calls, right? Which ad copy is working the most, and then you could continue to A/B test. So again, this is not necessarily replacing anyone. This is not replacing A/B testing. This is not replacing actual analysis that you still need to do. But it's a tool to get you information to be able to make more educated decisions. All right. ChatGPT, and this is gonna get more and more advanced. I think this is the last one. There's some more advanced stuff you could do on this, but I don't wanna lose you guys. Write me a Google ad script that lists all landing pages on a Google sheet and checks the status code of them in column B. Tell me how to run the script on a routine daily, and I want an email from all pages that are 404 or other status code error. So what this is gonna make me, this is gonna give me a code, and it's gonna tell me, by the way, how to, you don't even have to be a programmer anymore, right? It's gonna give you the code, and on the bottom here, it tells you how to implement it. It'll walk you through how to go into Google Ads and implement this to actually have it work. You don't need to like send this to a programmer or developer. Literally, ChatGPT will walk you through exactly how to make it work. So the takeaway here is once you get the script and once you run it, Google's gonna generate you a list of all your landing pages, and it's gonna check them on a daily basis. And anytime any of them are broken, it's gonna send you an email, right? So the takeaway here is I find a lot of car dealerships, especially when they start promoting a specific car or like specific offer, maybe they forget to remove it from their website, right? So you're running clicks and paying for clicks to pages that might not exist or a car that might be sold. Google does an okay job with disapproving ads that go to the pages like that, but depending how your website is coded, sometimes it might not detect it, and sometimes it might catch it a day or two late. It's not like instantly checking, right? So this in itself will give you an email of all pages that you're still advertising, they should not be advertising. Really cool stuff, right? And again, it's all about efficiencies. Any questions? All right. So I have, what do I have for you? I have tips and tricks. I'm going to show you a really cool way to start playing with all this stuff, and then we're going to have some Q&A. So we covered some of these already, but I'm going to go through it. Move this, yeah, perfect. I'm gonna go through it in here as well. So number one, you could define ChatGPT's role. So the big one, and the reason I bolded it, is this is one of those like tricks that just I found by using ChatGPT a lot. But if you ask it to be an expert, so you could say, please answer this question, act as an expert. If you ask ChatGPT to be an expert, it actually accesses a lot more data and gives you a much better response. The response might be a second slower, but actually by using that prompt, again, why prompt engineering is important, by asking it to be an expert, it's actually accessing a lot more data and evaluating more data before responding. And you could do other ones, act as a tour guide, act as a storyteller, act as a motivational speaker, right? All really, really powerful stuff. I've seen this used to respond to customer emails, right? Customer sends you a complaint email or something like that. With the correct prompts, you could actually come up with really, really captivating responses to mitigate whatever issues they might be having. Define the audience. So you could say use short sentences, address the audience directly, right? You could literally say address the audience directly, so the content produced, you could literally send to someone because it's already written as a response to send to someone. Try different styles. So we touched upon that. In the style of William Shakespeare is my favorite. You could do others, of course, but for whatever reason, any technical write-ups in the style of William Shakespeare always come out hysterical to me. Create outlines are very powerful. So you could put in an entire article, right, or entire piece of information. I'll show you in real life how this works right after we go through these, and have ChatGPT summarize it for you. And next bullet's the same. So you could literally throw in a lot of content, right? So a vendor just sent you 5 pages about their product. You put it into ChatGPT and say, summarize the following content. You could say summarize in bullet points, right? And I'll show you how easy this becomes. And again, it's all about efficiencies, right? Instead of spending 2 hours reading this huge long article, you got ChatGPT summarize it for you and save you a lot of time. You can even use it to get reviews on products and technology. You could, in this example, I want you to act as a tech reviewer, include pros and cons, feature comparisons, start with reviewing and put in the information, right? Because you compare vendors. You have two different vendors that you're considering, right? You go ChatGPT, please compare the features of these two CMS providers. All right, now we have pitfalls. So the pitfalls of ChatGPT. So I touched upon this briefly, but the current iteration of ChatGPT core data is only through September 2021. So while it does its best to go beyond that, you could literally see here that it tells you my knowledge cutoff date is September 2021. So that's the core data that's been vetted and is the most powerful. Number two, you could actually get some wrong information from it. For whatever reason, people like to treat ChatGPT as like the end-all be-all, right? It gives me this information, it has to be right. But if you think about it, ChatGPT is only as powerful as the data set it has. It's also a learning model, so it's always learning and evolving. I've presented this slide probably 5-6 times now, and I used to have a lot more examples. But the amount of examples I have of it being like flat out wrong are less and less. But here's one, for example. How many countries start with the letter V, right? And ChatGPT says there are no countries that start with the letter V, right? Well, if you guys think about it, there are a couple actually. Vietnam, for example. So if you think about it, why is ChatGPT saying there's no countries that start with the letter V? Well, in its data set, Vietnam is not Vietnam, right? Vietnam's official name is something like Socialist Republic of Vietnam, right? So based on the data set, ChatGPT thinks that it does not start with the letter V. So always keep in mind that everything you get from it, especially if you're going to use it publicly on your website, whatever it is, should be at least read and checked and QA'd. Similar data from similar requests, I covered this a little bit. If everyone goes out and asks ChatGPT to write them an article about the Mercedes GLS, everyone's content's going to be pretty similar. Google discourages that. Duplicate content doesn't rank. Google's guideline is you want it to be unique, you want it to have expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So that's still important. And of course, like I pointed out a couple times, you still need to curate, edit, and quality control most of the data you get from ChatGPT. Where did I go? I clicked somewhere. Yeah, so next step, I'll show you a quick example. Is for you guys go and experiment. There's a couple ways to do it, and I'll show you really quickly now. One more slide, and then I'll show you the examples. And this again, same example, prompt engineer. The point of this slide is not to be afraid to partner with the right agencies to utilize this stuff. So I think the big takeaway for you guys is to be able to use ChatGPT yourself to create efficiencies at your dealership. And I think ultimately you want to partner with agencies who are also using it, right? Whoever's using ChatGPT for SEO, pay-per-click, social media will do a better job for you than they're not, because they're creating efficiencies and getting more out of their time and more out of your money. With that said, let me pull up a browser and I'll actually show you guys some examples. So first I'll show you, for those who do not know or see how ChatGPT works, I'll walk you through it really quickly. So this is ChatGPT. Again, it's free to sign up. If you want to upgrade to the latest model, which we talked about, ChatGPT 4, it's literally just clicking upgrade to plus here. But otherwise, it's just an account you create with chat.openai. And this is literally the interface you use. And I'll show you really quick. What do we use in our example? Prestige Lexus. I'll show you, for example, how to respond to a review. Write me a response to the Google review for my car dealership. Here we go. I think I didn't prompt that it should be on Google My Business. I think this is written up more as an email response. But literally, how long did that take? In 3-4 seconds. And this is the free model. You have a response that you could send off as a response to the review. That's amazingly articulate and well written. Again, this is all efficiencies to save you guys time. I have one more example for you guys of an even easier way they could start using ChatGPT, and then I'll leave it, I'll open up for questions. So let me get, so this is Internet Explorer. And again, this is why Microsoft Ads is more and more relevant, because now more and more people are using MSN. So ChatGPT integrates into MSN. Google has their own cold BART, but it's still, the integration is still in beta, and it's, I think this will continue to be the best way to use it. So quick things. So for those who have Internet Explorer, this is Microsoft Edge. So what you want to do is you want to go into settings, see if I remember this correctly, sidebar, Bing chat, and you want to enable this page context. So once you enable this, so not only is ChatGPT part of the Edge experience, but by enabling page context, it could actually see the content of your pages. So the way this works, and I have it enabled, let's not even do MSN, let's do something else. I don't know if you guys have been following the news, but they actually found the, what was it, the Titan that went underseas, and the latest is that it imploded. But anyway, CNN article, a lot of stuff going on here, right? There's like, let's pause the video. A lot of stuff going on here. So literally I'm on this page, right? This is ChatGPT. You just literally click Bing here. I enabled page context. So what that means is now everywhere I go on the internet, I could go on a page, and here I put summarize this article for me into a list of bullet points. That's funny. I didn't like it this time. I'll show you when I did it right before we started this. So again, it's all like generative AI, so it's not, you won't get the same response twice, but I wrote summarize this article for me into a list of bullet points, and it literally gave me the bullet points of this like 5-page article. Titanic-bound submersible suffered a catastrophic implosion, killing all 5 people on board. Submersible was descending to explore the wreckage of a luxury liner located 900 miles east of Cape Cod. A remotely operated vehicle found parts of the sub about 1,600 feet from the bow of the shipwreck. Investigators continue to scour the ocean floor. Tributes are pouring in, blah, blah, blah. So literally these 5 points summarize this entire article. And then you could do a follow-up, generate some key takeaways, and you gave me some key takeaways. So again, this is Internet Explorer. Once you enable the context at any time, any page you're on, you could, and this is powered by ChatGPT. Let me try this one more time. This page. It literally reads the information and is able to interact with it. Oh, there it goes, working this time now. So anywhere on the internet you could go, and here you have, I don't know, what is this, 8 sentences that summarize this entire page and just saved you 20 minutes of reading, unless you're a fast reader. Yeah, that's all I have for you guys. Let me go to the end. If you scan that with didn't want to go to that now. Let's try it one more time. If you scan that QR code, it connects with me on LinkedIn. So if anyone has any follow-up questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. And with that, I'll open up for any questions. Yes. Yeah, good question. So I think the best. So what are the best ways to use it? I haven't used it as an app. I use it more online. So online, you want to use it straight from ChatGPT. So you will go to OpenAI. Hold on, I think OpenAI ChatGPT. I think if you Google it, you'll find it. But the computer interface I've been using the most. But I think Bing itself has it built in. I think if you get the Bing, let's see if I have, what is it, Edge on the phone. Let's see if I have it. Edge. Oh, good question. I know Microsoft has their own search and it's integrated in there. But let's see really quickly. Oh, you're right. There are a couple of them. So the Bing one is the one I would recommend. I don't know if I could get this to my camera, but it says Bing chat with AI GPT. The reason for that is Bing will use ChatGPT 4, where the one that's made by OpenAI will not. So yeah, go ahead. Yes, let's do it. Let's do it. What do you for what kind of job? An employee at for anything else we want to include in the anything else? The car technician is good. I can't spell that. Let's just do Idaho. Yep. And you could give it more prompts. You could say that you're looking for this kind of person or this kind of person. But yes, here's the whole thing. Why work for us? Responsibilities, requirements. Don't miss this opportunity to take your automotive career to the next level. Apply now, become part of a reputable and thriving team at XYZ used car dealership in Idaho. That's a good one. Job post is a good one. It does very well. Obviously, again, like with anything else, you're gonna QA it a little bit, but this absolutely gives you the framework for it, right? State-of-the-art facilities. You might not have state-of-the-art facilities, but it definitely sounds good. Our dealerships are equipped with the latest tools and technology, providing you with a modern and efficient work environment. Any other questions? Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Yep. Still here. Good question. I forget. I'm guessing G is generative. Let's see. You know what? Let's ask ChatGPT. I'm going to ask ChatGPT. What does GPT stand for? Let's see what it says. Generative pre-trained transformer. I have a lot of monitors. Like I'm the computer tech stuff's my job, right? So I have monitor here. I have a monitor just open in ChatGPT. A lot of times like you just literally had the question about something. So much quicker to get a response than to Google it, right? So I treat ChatGPT as my assistant. Like I literally just have the window open. I'm about to respond to an email or something. I have it make it better. It really is a tool to create efficiency and it takes a little bit to get used to use it, but it will make everything you do fast, right? Like how long? Fine, you'll need to spend 10 minutes changing this job post, right, before you could post it. But how much longer would it take for you to write all this from scratch? I know this probably saved at least 30 minutes right here. Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's a good question. So I was asked to talk about this at NADA, which is in February. And they're like, you have to commit to the session, description, everything now because our board needs to approve it by the end of June. I'm like, I have no idea. They wanted me to talk about ChatGPT and generative. So there's ChatGPT and there's the other component of it that we didn't really cover is the Google's generative search experience. So let me show that to you guys really quick. Google generative search experience. So what happened is, as you saw, Bing is kind of at the forefront of all of this, and it's really taking market share away from Google. Google's not one to just sit there and like go out of business, right? Sergey Brin was actually retired. I don't know what he was doing. He was on an island relaxing, but he's been away from Google for a couple of years now. He came back in February to try to right the ship, right? So Google is not going to take this laying down. So they came out with this. They released this at their I/O conference, I think, a couple of weeks ago. This is what they think. This is what they're saying. Search results are going to look like. Also, they have their own model. They have the BART. But this is how they're seeing the search experience being with Google, and they've released this whole thing. The big thing you notice from all, and by the way, I'm already subscribed to the, I think it's pre-beta or beta, whatever it is. I'm already using it, and it does look like this. The big thing you're going to notice here is there's no paid search results, and there's barely any organic search results, right? Google makes money from paid search and organic. So ultimately, I think they went overboard with what they presented because they want to kind of take the thunder away from Microsoft and really say we're going to do a lot of innovative things also. But the way Google's going to look in not even 9 months, in 6 months, going to be completely different. So yes, good question. Things will be a lot different in a couple months than they are now. By NADA in early February, ChatGPT could replace a lot of things that we do, or it could not exist because it gets banned. Italy banned it, so you're not allowed to use it in Italy. The reason for all of this regulatory stuff, and we didn't cover any of those examples today because it's not as relevant to you guys, but there's a couple things. Number one, ChatGPT is a learning model, so anything you enter into it, it owns that information. There was a case a couple months ago where an employee at Samsung was trying to troubleshoot code he had in the like Samsung like core code, and he put the entire data set, entire code set into ChatGPT. He's like, fix my bug. ChatGPT fixed it, but then he's like, oh shit, ChatGPT now, anything you put in, it owns, right? And it learns from it. So Samsung freaked out. They contact OpenAI. They're like, please erase all the code you have of ours. And ChatGPT, OpenAI, is like, that's not how any of this works, right? Once it gets information, actually, it's a learning model. It learns from it. So now it has the entire Samsung repository in it. So one thing is obviously you want to be careful what you put in. You guys don't deal with too much proprietary code, but just keeping that in mind. Number two, with coding, you could really coax ChatGPT into doing some malicious things. You could say, here's a website on this platform. What are the exploits that exist in it, right? And then it could be like, you know what? Write me some code to exploit these and hack websites, like, right? They have security in place where I'll say that I'm a learning model. I don't want to hack for you, right? But at the end of the day, there's ways around it as well. So those are the two main regulatory concerns. There's a lot of regulatory concerns, but those are the ones that I think have the most merit. Both in terms of IP ownership and doing malicious things, and that's why Italy banned it. I don't think there's going to be a ban, and I don't think it's going to be too different from what you see now. I think it's a little bit overhyped right now, so I think it's gonna expectations and hype and everything will come down a little bit. There might be some limitations to it in terms of coding, but nothing that would affect what you guys do with it. But in the day, considering it didn't exist 6 months ago, it could be anything. And that's my struggle with the NADA session, that literally by the time the session comes, it could be banned in the US, right? So to answer your question, I don't think there's going to be big bans or big changes. I think it will continue to live in the very similar to how it works now. But certainly could be limitations placed on it, especially as the newer iteration is allowed to crawl websites. So you could literally say, crawl this website and find a back door into it or something like that, right? So there certainly might be, but my opinion is they probably won't be. But then again, 6 months ago, I thought Google would not allow AI generated content in Google search results, and they changed their mind. So I think it's all moving target and moving very, very rapidly. Yes. Yes. So more people are using Microsoft products like Bing, MSN. Now that's ChatGPT powered. More people are using it. They're gaining market share. I haven't seen a big jump in Microsoft ad usage, but I would certainly encourage it. And I don't know if you've ever used Microsoft ads, but it's they know themselves that Google is the primary platform for advertising, right? And it's so I don't want to say obvious, but this is a Microsoft Ads interface. Functionality wise, it continues to be very similar to Google, but they make it so easy to run your Google Ads campaigns on Microsoft that literally they have an import button. This used to say, by the way, import from Google Ads. So it was as obvious as that. Now you have to click it and then click import from Google Ads. But you could literally import all your Google Ads campaigns. You could even set up a schedule where on a daily basis it imports your Google Ads campaigns. So they make it super, super easy on a cost per click, cost per conversion. It continues to be about 25% cheaper than Google. Yes. Sorry, I didn't hear after it's split 50-50 and I didn't hear after that. Good question. So their real market share in mobile is close to zero. The ads and search things that, so what would you use? You would use MSN. You would use you would use their Edge browser or something. You'd use some product that has. And by the way, on any browser on your phone, you could make Bing search the default search. They have very low mobile presence. Their mobile traffic is mostly from partner sites. So what's a good partner site? DuckDuckGo. You guys have heard of DuckDuckGo? It's a privacy search engine. They're all powered by it's all powered by Microsoft Ads. So all the ads on here are Microsoft Ads. So they don't have a big presence on mobile. It's mostly through partners, through App Store traffic. Their big market share is on desktop, not mobile. Perfect. Thank you guys. Have a good